Jon, it's awesome having you on the Harder Not Smarter podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know you just got back from Mexico, so you've been traveling all over. I feel like you're always doing some crazy, interesting, or exciting endeavor that every time we talk, I get to hear about.
Thank you very much. I try to stay busy. I appreciate you having me on, and it's going to be tough to follow up with General, Petraeus. So appreciate you making room for me with all the incredible people you're having on.
Oh no, we love having the average person on. I mean, not that you're
the common folk,
the common folk. It's always exciting to have someone as predominant as General Petraeus or something like that, but having just frank conversations with people that are going through similar stuff, that have had similar experiences, and sharing those stories is really what makes this podcast so much fun, and really valuable for the audience. I mean, you have a very unique story, and you're very open about it. You were originally in the Marines. You were recon, correct?
3-4, 3rd Battalion, 4th Marine, Scout Snipers.
Scout Snipers, that's what it was. Did that for a time, got out, and were actually homeless for a little bit, living out of your car, which I think really exemplifies what happened early in the conflict, where guys and girls served. They did their time. They're like, all right, it's time to go do something else. But there was no, concerted follow-on plan. It's like, I'm just going to get out and get a job and do whatever. And then all of a sudden, the reality of, I'm no longer collecting a government paycheck with all of these functions and services supporting me. I'm now out in the world on my own. Oh, fuck, what do I do? Walk us through a little bit what happened when you left the service and how that came about.
Yeah, it's tricky, and I appreciate you asking. I'm all about origin stories, because we look at people like General Petraeus and we see where they are now, but you forget what it took for them to get there. And there's this whole journey along the way that's really helpful for people to understand as they are going through it themselves. So that's why I try and tell my story. Left the Marine Corps in 2009. I thought I had a job lined up, and ended up not working out the way I thought it would. Back then, there was very little separation assistance. So we have TAPS and SEPs for transitioning military now. I think Secretary Ash Carter was the one who really started that. Back in the 80s, 90s, there was really nothing basically for these service members getting out. And it's a tough transition, because you've been institutionalized. You're used to things being in a certain way, very strong culture in each branch of the services. And you get out, and you've got to figure out what resumes are about and how to interview, and maybe going back to school. So I had no experience with what a real quote unquote career looked like. Nobody in my family had ever graduated from college. Nobody had ever had a white collar job. Not that that's the only type of career, of course, but I didn't have these examples of what it looked like to be successful in the civilian world. And so I kind of had to figure it out on my own. And that's where I got stuck. I was trying to do it on my own, and I had this job fall through, ended up living out of my car for a while, crashed on my girlfriend's parents' couch for a while. I'm sure they really appreciated that.
A nice humble pie to swallow.
Well, it's funny, because she's my wife now, but my wife's dad was an Oceanside cop right outside of Camp Pendleton, and a San Diego sheriff's deputy. So he had seen all the crazy Marines, and the motorcycle accidents and all this terrible stuff. So he always told my wife to never date a Marine. And of course, we ended up dating, and I'm like some random guy sleeping on their couch.
It's like telling a kid, don't push the red button. Like being in Oceanside, especially at that time, the military is getting so much notoriety and press at the time. 2009, that's still height of both Iraq and Afghanistan, basically. So I'm sure that it was an interesting time for you to be getting out, because it's also right after the housing crash. So Greg and I talk about, because we got out in 2020-ish, right around COVID. So there's like these chunks of time where it's just a terrible time to get out, but people still, that you can't predict what's going to happen in the economy, and sometimes you just have to deal with the situation you're dealt.
And I had no concept of what the economy was or what a job market was or any of that when I got out, right? That was not on my radar. I was 22 when I got out. So I signed my contract to join the Marine Corps when I was 17, went to boot camp right after I turned 18. And so I literally grew up in the Marine Corps, did back-to-back deployments to Iraq, Al-Anbar province, and really wanted to go to Afghanistan because I grew up in Colorado in the Rockies, and I wanted to go see the Hindu Kush Mountains and, you know, the things I'd heard about Pashtun culture. Really wanted to go over there. And they said, there's no way we can send you to Afghanistan. You're going to have to go back to Iraq for a third time. And I was tired of the desert. You know, I was stationed in 29 Palms for most of my time in the Marine Corps, which is like the middle of nowhere desert. It's between LA and Vegas. It's no man's land.
For anyone who's not familiar with 29 Palms, it was an army base during World War II that they decided was inhospitable to humans and gave it up. And the Marine Corps swooped in and was like, we'll take it.
They did nuclear testing there. They said it was uninhabitable. And the Marine Corps was like, yeah, give it to us.
Gosh, this makes so much sense.
I think the biggest base in the U.S. by square mileage now.
I did not know that. Also nicknamed the Stumps. So
the Stumps, 29 Stumps. It's like 950 square miles or something. It's huge. So I was going from Mojave Desert to Iraq Desert, back to back to back to back. And I did not want to do that again. So, of course, as soon as I got out, they sent my unit back to Afghanistan. They switched gears on me. But my plan was to get out and come back in. I was like, I'm going to take a break for a couple months, or I'm going to go back to school and I'll come back in as an officer, you know. And one thing led to another after I got out. So just didn't end up coming back, but it's always been like part of me. I think some people get out too early, you know, and they miss it. And that's definitely been part of my story too.
Yeah.
What was the job you had lined up when you first got out?
So I had lined up a position with high threat protection for diplomatic security service. And I was supposed to go over to the Middle East to do high threat protection, basically, you know, bodyguard work for the government, and went through their training course. It was a 4-week vetting course in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Had a lot of fun there, you know, did a bunch of driving school, advanced driving, tons of time on the range. And so that was good training. I was ready to go, but they didn't have a spot for me. So I was like on their waiting list for a few months. And eventually a spot did open up for me. And that's how I kind of moved on from, you know, sleeping on people's couches and abandoned base barracks. There were a couple of barracks on Camp Pendleton that I was like sleeping in, like the pre basic recon course huts. I was
like the old Kwanzaa hut things from Gunny Highway type stuff.
Pretty much. I mean, adapt and overcome. You know, I wasn't used to living in luxury, so having a cot was good enough for me. But eventually a spot opened up for me, so I did end up going back to Iraq anyway. I went back there 3 more times, and then I went to Jerusalem for a while, lived there, worked throughout the West Bank, primarily doing support for the Consul General, and then went up to Erbil a couple times to help train the Peshmerga during the whole Islamic State ISIS situation.
All right. And during this time, you were going to school as well, or was that something that happened down the road?
I was trying to go to school. My second deployment, I like brought textbooks with me, thinking I'm going to study in between, you know, missions. And I did, but it was very slow paced. So I was paper mailing like math assignments from Iraq back to the US. And, you know, my professors are getting like these crumpled up letters that took like 3 months to get there. It was almost a complete waste of time.
So like, is this some kind of joke?
But I felt like I was making some kind of progress. I was chipping away, you know, and that was my mindset. Like, I'm working towards something bigger, even if I'm going really slowly. And I racked up a couple of classes while I was in the Marine Corps. And then I had some credits from the, you know, military training I had done. So I felt like I was chipping away, and eventually I got momentum and I knocked out a bunch of school.
And then you have like 5 universities, I think, or colleges you went to.
Slowly, I went to
9.
Yeah.
It's so many.
Like Van Wilder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time I apply to another school and they ask for my transcripts, it's like a massive ordeal to go back and get all those. Plus moving around, like getting a security clearance when you've, had a bunch of jobs, you've gone over to the Middle East multiple times, you've been to a bunch of schools. It's a nightmare. But I ended up going to 9 schools total.
And ending with Harvard. So like, it's like that game that they have people play in school where they're like, all right, here's a pencil. And we want you to start the day with a pencil and see how many things you can upgrade to. And like who has the coolest thing at the end of the day. So you trade the pencil for an eraser, and then an eraser for a binder, and then a binder for whatever. And people eventually get the end of the day with like a couch they traded something for. I feel like that's Jon's school experience. He started with the community college and went to a city college, and then he got a state school, and then he somehow ends up at Harvard.
That's a good way to look at it, like trading up one step at a time, because you could never go straight from 0 to the top of the food chain. I did try and build a foundation every time that improved my reputation and get to the next level. So the first school that I went to, taking online classes, was literally ranked the worst college in the United States at one point.
So you went to the worst really and the best.
That was Adams State College. And I had great professors there, though. Like I learned a bunch about geopolitics and English and history there. So really appreciated my classes. Then I went on to some community colleges in California. I went to Saddleback College, had great psychology professors there, and eventually did my undergrad at Vanguard University in Costa Mesa, California. But by the time I became a full-time student, I was so ready and eager to learn that I just like dove into it head first, because I only had 2 years of high school. So ended up dropping out of high school to work full time to help my parents pay the bills and stuff like that. My parents are amazing people, but just not like, financially wealthy. So I was working full time instead of going to school at like 16, and kind of felt like I was getting trapped. Like, am I going to do this for the rest of my life? And that was part of why I joined the Marine Corps, to set off on a different path. And I really wanted to serve and protect people and become a better person myself too. But part of it was, starting a new life. So 2 years of high school, ended up going to these community colleges and not just doing it for the piece of paper, like not just going through the motions, actually being genuinely curious about learning these things and recognizing that I had a privilege to be in a position where I was learning, I was investing in myself. I mean, my full-time job was like going to school and becoming a smarter, better person. Like, I don't know how people take that for granted. That's the best opportunity in the world. And having the GI Bill to help pay for it too was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the difference is between like now and between you and I think of myself, like going through college, I went, my parents paid for college. It was like, just like what you did. Right. Yeah. So I went to college because I was being told to go to college, not because I wanted to. Whereas you like really took the time and like found out, okay, this is what I want to do, and like actually having the gratitude to back up everything that you're learning and doing. It just takes. I mean, it makes it a whole different ball game when you have that approach versus just a 18-year-old kid entering college, school paid for.
Yeah, nobody appreciates something that's free.
Yeah. Even if you're paying for it though, like I think that even if you're paying with student loans, like you're only doing it because you're 18 years old and that's what you're being told to do. You're not doing it necessarily because it's like in your best interest. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, having actual life experience too. He'd done 2 tours in Iraq. He'd gone through the Scout Sniper curriculum to get that MOS. He put in all the work at each of the other community colleges and state schools to get there, to where now you have context to why you're going to school and what you're trying to do. When you've gone straight from high school to college, and you don't actually know what you want to do, but they're having you pick a major which at the time feels like the most important decision you can ever make. And you got into school and now you need to pick a major because that major is going to define the career that you have. And if you pick the wrong major, then, you're not going to be happy or satisfied or successful, whatever the context is. And you're expecting somebody that has very little life experience most of the time at 18, 19 years old to make these profound decisions. And now you're taking classes and you don't really know what you like and you're figuring it out along the way. But God forbid you change your major and have to start over, and then you're in college longer, accumulating more debt. Where if you take some time off, and I think this is really important for a lot of young kids to consider, is you don't need to have your life figured out at 18. You don't need to have your life plan of, I'm going to graduate high school, go to this college, get this major, get this job, and then
Definitely
everything's
not.
on the right trajectory. I turned 39 in like a week or two, and I still don't have life figured out. Like Greg and I are making stuff up as we go along every day, and it makes it so much more fun. Like, you don't have to have all the answers figured out. Take some time off. Like don't go right from high school to college, unless you're trying to be a doctor, maybe. But even then, a lot of people that I know that go to medical school, they end up hating it. They're like, it's not what I wanted. It's what my parents wanted.
Yeah.
And so if you take some time to just do something, travel, get a job someplace, you can always go back to college. But going to college first, it really compounds a lot of issues and stress that I think is affecting people today. You're accumulating this debt and you don't really know what you want to do, and you take a job that you don't want, but you need to have the money to pay your debt.
That is a vicious cycle that a lot of people get trapped in. And I think you do learn a lot about yourself and life and what you want to do if you go straight to college. But it's like the most expensive way you could do that, like
this is true.
Go travel for a bit, get a couple of random jobs, like take a job you don't want just to see what it's like. Go be a mechanic for a summer and learn some stuff. You have to experiment. And so part of my life philosophy now is Thinking in Bets, which is this great book. It's all about taking calculated risks based on the expected value and thinking very carefully about what you're investing your time and energy into. And the idea that you are going to take maximum risk in terms of student loans and paying for school with the least amount of idea of what you want to do, that's like 100% times zero. 100% risk times zero direction. Not a good place to be. So yeah, take some time to get to know yourself before you commit to something. And I spent a lot of time in school. Looking back, I didn't have to. Part of my philosophy why I spent so much time in school was I want to learn anyway. Therefore, why don't I do it formally and I'll get credit for it too, right? I'm always trying to kill two birds with one stone. I'm going to learn anyway. Why don't I get the credit too? And I think that was an effective model. Maybe not the most effective though, because you go to school, you're trying to learn everything. Right? It's like boiling the ocean. More effective strategy is know what you want to do and learn exactly what you need to know to do it. So like being an entrepreneur, you can't learn everything about being an entrepreneur and then go do it. You have to start the business. And then each time you hit a wall, you're like, oh man, I don't know anything about marketing. Okay, go learn about marketing. I don't know how to do, ad campaigns. All right, learn that. I don't know how to set this up. Your education has to be action driven, because you could spend a decade in school learning like me and then realize, I haven't done as much as I wanted to. And so now I'm all about focus on action and execution instead of just reading books for no reason. I love to read, but it's almost an excuse to not do something real at a certain point.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that want to the I guess receive mode. They just want information to keep coming in. They think that they're going to get inspired, or they'll all of a sudden have all the information they need to move forward. And it's as you said, it's almost a convenient excuse. Like, oh no, I'm not ready. I'm still learning. I'm doing something to make progress, but really it's a delayed mechanism to hold off what's actually scary, which is doing the thing and creating the business.
I think one reason why people go to college is credibility. Like, you think you need it, and in many cases you still do, because there are still those. Yeah, it's becoming less and less of an issue. I think more and more organizations are open to hiring people without college degrees, which I think is awesome. Because some of the smartest people that I met in the military don't have any formal education. And I mean, shoot, some of them were like line cooks when they got into the military and ended up in SOF. Like, you just don't know. You can't base somebody's background. You know, it can be a good indicator, but it's definitely not like the only one that matters. But it's also never been easier to build credibility online and like show that you're a subject matter expert, or at least trying to become that way. So if you were somebody that was like super interested in like coding or something like that, how easy nowadays would it be just to like start writing on LinkedIn or whatever platform you want to use and just be like, I have this skill, I'm very interested in it, look how much time I dedicate to it, like I'm posting about it daily. Someone's going to notice you, and someone's going to be like, okay, this person doesn't need a college degree. Like, they are way more knowledgeable than any junior developer or whoever I'm going to hire for this next position. So I'm hating on college right now hard, and
it's fun. We all do.
I'm also a believer in I mean, it was great for me. I definitely learned a ton. I just don't think it's as necessary as sometimes it's made out to be. Formal
I never got the full college experience. I never lived in a dorm, aside from military barracks. You know, I never.
Your barracks experience far exceeds the dorm life.
Yeah, so I don't know what I don't know what I don't know. But you have to figure things out, and you can't bet your whole life on one plan that you came up with when you were 16. That's not a good model.
No.
Yeah. And so you've taken all this experience from 9 different universities plus your time in the Marine Corps, and now you've created your own business. At what point did you decide the W-2 employee route isn't for me, and you're like, I'm just going to build something. I don't care if I have zero experience structuring a company and figuring out sales and marketing and administration and HR and all the things that go into building a business. You're like, I'm just going to do it and figure it out.
Necessity, honestly. I've always had that entrepreneur gene. Going back to high school, like I was selling, candy. I'd like bulk buy candy and, sell it in my 2 years of high school. And then they got vending machines, and I had like a turf war with the vending machine guy.
So weird, the vending machines kept breaking. I don't understand. There's always gum stuck in the coin slot.
So that's how I got started. But I always wanted to build something, and I love the idea of taking a risk, believing in yourself, and creating something that paid off. So COVID happened. I was at Deloitte Consulting and leading organizational transformations for companies and government agencies there.
Hold up real quick. Leading organizational transformation. These are the buzzwords I love talking about, the corporate speak. Tell me a little bit about what leading organizational change entails.
So, all right, let me back up. I finished my MBA at Vanderbilt. I went from undergrad to I did a short program at Stanford. That helped me get into Vanderbilt. I did my MBA there. From there, I went to Deloitte Consulting. I had never worked in an office environment at that point. And so I'm like supposed to be a management consultant and go and tell these companies like, this is how you do it based on all my experience. I had zero corporate experience whatsoever. I think I was a pretty good shot on the range, but I didn't no idea how to use a printer. I didn't know how to like schedule meetings in a calendar. I didn't know what PowerPoint was. So I had a steep learning curve.
This is like the 23-year-old life coach coming in and being like, let me tell you how to fix all your life problems.
Yeah. This is what I see on LinkedIn a lot. The guy that's like 6 months away from getting out of the military, like coaching people through the process. I see that a lot. So applying to management consulting firms, I didn't want to be a management consultant. And then I took this test that said like I was a perfect fit based on what I wanted to do. Because management consulting, these are like special operations teams, and I was never, high speed like you guys. But there are these small elite teams that go into companies and like try and fix everything and then leave quietly. And so
and collect a bill on the way out.
Yeah. Hopefully get paid the big bucks. So I was like, that's cool. So I tested high for that, decided to go down that route and applied to Deloitte. And I did more practice than anybody else. I did more networking and more practice. So we had to do these case interviews where they like give you a scenario and you have to think very quickly on your feet and come up with an entire plan of how you're going to fix this multi-million-dollar problem for a global school bus company or something. That was one of the cases I got. And you got to do this in 2 or 3 minutes and then propose your entire plan. So I did dozens of these practice cases to prepare for these special interviews. And I networked with dozens of people. And so I did more in preparation than anyone else, even though I didn't have the office experience. I showed my dedication. I was able to speak their lingo. I'd get on calls with people and tell them things about their own company that they didn't even know because I had just been talking to people. So that's part of my advice for people. Like, take your networking very seriously and your interview prep really seriously. And I chose one company and I went after it 100%. I put a ton of time and energy into getting hired by Deloitte Consulting because I believed in their model, their leadership style, their culture, and they had a great government practice. So I said, I want to work for your government practice. They said, no one has ever been hired from Vanderbilt for our government practice. We only hire from like Georgetown and the Harvard Kennedy School. And so eventually I had to convince them. So I think I was the first person from Vanderbilt they hired directly as a summer associate. And then I got a full-time offer. So that's how I ended up in the world of consulting and learned how to use printers and PowerPoint from there. Now I'm a PowerPoint wizard, but I had no idea at first.
You just got to fake until you eventually get there and you have a good understanding. You know, as we say in the military, just carry a cup of coffee and a clipboard and walk with a purpose down the hallway. No one will question you being there.
Well, I learned to ask questions, right? The Socratic method. So that's a big part of my executive coaching work. That's a big part of my management consulting, asking the right questions and pulling answers out of people. Because if I tell you what to do, you're not going to want to listen to me, even if I am the expert. There's a lot of ego at the top of these companies. So I try to ask the right questions and lead people down the right path that way. And that's been really effective.
Make it their own idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not in a fake way. And sometimes I don't know the right answer, and that's okay. Like, no one has all the answers. These people know their business as well, but they need to be challenged to think in a new way.
So you're at Deloitte for a while, and then you come to some crossroad in your life and you realize Deloitte's not what you want to be doing. You're going to go off and do this on your own. Was there some pivotal thing, or are you just saying, this is something I've been wanting to do for a while and now it seems like as good a time as any?
If only it were that easy. I applied to the Harvard Kennedy School while I was at Deloitte. And everyone was telling me, you're crazy. Deloitte's one of the most admired and desired MBA employers out there. Like, why would you go back to school? What else are you going to do? I mean, I guess I could have gone to Google or something. But I felt drawn to apply to the Harvard Kennedy School, and I did. And then I was shocked that I got in, but there was no way to pay for it. Like, I had used up all my GI Bill, and I was like, this is unbelievable. I'm going to have to turn down the opportunity to go to Harvard because I can't pay for it. I already, used everything. And then I got a call, and they said they were giving me a free ride, full ride to Harvard, and they were going to pay me a living stipend to go there as a fellow for the Center for Public Leadership. So
you didn't apply for it. They went through your resume,
I did
your
apply
application.
For it,
okay.
But I didn't think I'd get it, So I don't know why I was compelled to apply, but I'm desperately always trying to improve. And that felt like the next step. Like, even after 1 year at Deloitte, I was like, I've got this figured out. I'm ready for the next thing. What's next? And maybe that's arrogant. Maybe I'm sure I could have learned a lot more there, but I get bored easily. So went to Harvard, COVID happens. I left Deloitte, have debt from my second master's now. And I started applying to companies like right as COVID is, heating up in 2020, and nobody's hiring. So I tried independent consulting. I tried applying to be a consultant on my own. and I got my first contract with Microsoft. And that blew me away. You know, here I am, some nobody. Like, I started my company last week and Microsoft's like, yeah, we need your help. So that showed me that every organization needs outside help. There's no company that like has a ton of people sitting around, you know. And some of these companies hire short-term help more because they don't want to hire long-term help. So they'll like sadly have layoffs, and then they'll hire short-term people to come in and help them where they really need it.
I mean, contractors are significantly less liability. You don't have all the state and federal regulations controlling what it is. You know, if you're a 1099 contractor coming in to provide a service for a period of time, and then they can just walk away whenever that's done, it's much easier than having to do severance or announce layoffs. Cutting off contracts, that'll go under the radar and doesn't matter. Plus, they know exactly what they're going to be paying for over a certain period of time. So it's a great area to get into if you're starting a business, is offering a service and become a 1099 contractor for larger companies, providing whatever it is you're doing, and then you move on to something else. You don't have to feel tied in to only supporting that company. You can work with a variety of businesses. For like my personality, I think that's a great fit. I don't like having to sit down and only do one thing all the time and only work on one mission set. Now we just opened up H&S Media, our marketing agency, and now we can help a whole bunch of companies with their marketing, and it's not just us building one go-to-market strategy. You know, I get to do it over and over and over again. I get more repetitions, and when one thing dries up, you know, we bring on a new client. So I think it's, for a lot of veterans, I think that's a great area to work in. It's a super low barrier to entry. You know, being a service provider, you don't have to build a product, you don't have to warehouse it, you don't have to ship it and package it and all that stuff. You just have information in your head that now you can do something for a business that doesn't have that expertise, and then you can go off and provide it for somebody else.
Yeah, 100%. Master one skill set, you know, video editing, ad campaigns. You can learn one of these skill sets in 8 to 12 weeks, right? Do a course, get really good at building websites on Squarespace, which is not hard to do. And there are people that'll pay you $100 an hour to do it. So do that for 3 months, get really savvy at it, and you don't have to go to school for 4 years. You could be a freelancer on Upwork, you know, and have a career doing that. And then you get referrals and all that. So a great way to build a business. Maximum flexibility.
Yeah. What else are you doing now with this business? And you started off as consulting for larger businesses, and that you've expanded it to a whole bunch of areas. Like you have executive coaching, you have career coaching, you have business consulting. Walk us through how each of these things kind of came to be.
Yeah. So I do a lot of management consulting for Fortune 500s and private equity companies now. Private equity backed companies, some venture backed companies as well. And that's cool because I get to walk through walls and see what's going on. Like normally there's a lot of safeguard between companies, and I would never share what one company is doing with another, but I get to learn from all these different companies and have perspectives. And so one of the companies that I'm supporting right now, you know, most of their employees have been there for 20 or 30 years. And that's great. They have excellent specialization, but they don't know what else is out there. And so I get to bring that to them and say, this is what I've seen be effective at other companies like yours in your industry, and add a lot of value that way. So I really enjoy that from a consulting side. I also do executive coaching and help these leaders be effective as they face these challenges, whether it's, you know, COVID or the economy, or they're going through a big technology change. That's what organizational transformation really is. We've got to move to the cloud. Like, how do we take all of our systems and move them to the cloud without dropping the ball for our customers or losing all of our data? And I don't know, maybe the technology stuff is not as exciting. Some people love it. But that's one of the things I do. The training, the communications, the leadership behind taking a massive company and changing direction. That's tough to do with a big ship.
Mm-hmm. And you've done a lot of this through, like, in terms of your marketing and finding new clients. You've done the majority of this through LinkedIn, and I think you have massive following, 80,000 plus. It's been a little bit since I've seen your profile, so I don't know where you are.
Hopefully 93,000 this week.
93,000. So yeah, you're just growing astronomically.
Thank you.
When did you figure out LinkedIn, figure out the LinkedIn strategy, how you were going to grow, and then also put in the time to grow your own personal brand?
Yeah. About a year and a half ago, I started taking LinkedIn more seriously. And I had a lot that I wanted to say because I had worked with all these companies and I had seen different cultures and leadership styles. And I had the military perspective of leadership there. And I'd worked in public sector and private sector, Fortune 500. So like A to Z, I felt like I had a lot of experience across different industries. And I had seen things that worked and things that didn't. And I wanted to write about them. And so I started posting more and more. And some of those really connected with people. I had one post that I think I gained like 15,000 followers in a couple of days because it resonated with people at the right time. So, it's great to have an audience because I'm talking about stuff that I really care about. And I think that the fact that people are drawn to it says that it's important for them to hear, and companies should pay attention to that. These are the messages that resonate with their employees. And you have to be telling the right stories. There are companies that are telling the wrong story, and your stories define your culture. So part of what I do with leaders is talk about what their values are, what they want their culture to be like, and what they need to do in order for their companies to tell the right stories. So that's part of it. So,
what does your business development look like on LinkedIn? Like, is it employees of companies that are reaching out to you and saying like, I wish that we're working with our company, or is it mostly leaders that are reaching out? How do most of these conversations come about when you bring on new business?
So I have never really done outbound marketing. I've experimented here and there, but I hate the idea of spamming people. The reason I'm okay with doing sales is because I know that if I sell something to someone, I can help them more. It's not like I've tricked you into giving me money and, gotcha. Now I'm not going to do anything. It's like, I know that I can help you. Let me prove that I can help you and earn the opportunity to work with you. And I know that I provide more value than I charge. So I have no problem doing sales now because I have that perspective. But I've never done a lot of outbound marketing. It's all inbound. And then when I am looking for new clients, it's a lot of networking. Great opportunities usually don't come to you, and you're not going to find them listed in the yellow pages or in a Google search. So you have to build relationships with people. And then when they go through something traumatic, like a major technology change, or I've been doing a lot of M&A work, this company buys $1 billion competitor in Europe, and they've got to figure out how to integrate those two companies. I want to be the person that they think of when that happens, so that they come to me and I'm top of mind. So that's the key. LinkedIn is great for networking. It's great to have a reputation, but really it's those one-on-one conversations that, kind of make me the person that people come to when they have a problem that they can't handle with their existing team.
And you typically getting messages, you create these posts. Are you getting executives reaching out to you saying, hey, I've seen your stuff. It really resonates with me. I'd love to have a conversation about this thing that I have going on?
Yeah, not every day, but it definitely happens. I don't know, a few times a month. I'm connected with new people, and sometimes I'm giving out free advice. I have no problem pointing people in the right direction, or I'm connecting them with someone else that can help them with a very particular challenge that they're having. And so being kind of the nexus where people come to me when they need help and I point them in the right direction, trying to add value wherever I can. There are a lot of people that are very careful not to add value without charging. And I think that's the wrong model. You want to help everyone as much as you can, while also being careful not to cross that line where it's going from friendly advice on, an intro call to getting pumped for free consulting. Cause I've had that before where people just try and, have like 3 or 4 meetings with you. And they want you to like create an entire presentation for them before they hire you. And it's like, that's going too far. I'm not going to give you all the answers and solve your problem for free. So
I think that's a common misconception about people in social media is they think like, oh, you have a large following. That must mean like you're generating a ton of business, like solely from your posts. And it's like,
no.
I yes, maybe it does, but really what it does is it invites discussion, and through those discussions is how you end up getting more business. It's not like just that you're posting and people are reaching out to you say, hey, I need to work with you. It's no, hey, I have a question. And then what can you do for them? Can you add a little bit of value to like just show your credibility? And then it invites more follow-on conversations and potentially, business.
Yeah, you have to build that foundation of trust first. And that's the same whether you're applying for a job or you've got your own business. Nobody's going to hand you a 6-figure contract unless they really trust you. And you're not going to build that trust off of a 10-word post. There's got to be some serious follow-up. And like, it really helps if their friends know you too, and you have relationships with them and they say, oh, Tom, I just read this post by Jon, and they're like, oh yeah, I talked to him last week. He had some really good advice. So you got to spend time talking to people and investing into relationships, not networking. It doesn't matter how many followers you have. That's a false indicator of your actual, ability to add value or the strength of your network. You have to build deep relationships. It's quality over quantity. And I work with some organizations that have relationships with other companies too. So sometimes they'll introduce me and I get a lot of opportunities through that. But I look at, Instagram in particular, and I see all these people saying that they're making, 20,000 a week or something off their posts. And I don't think it's true. Maybe I'm doing everything wrong. And, I have like 0 presence on Instagram. Maybe all the money's on Instagram. I feel like the money's on LinkedIn because that's where all the executives are, white collar, if you will. But I don't think people are making as much from social media as they tend to want you to believe.
No, Instagram's a dumpster fire. Greg, you'll be proud to know I deleted Instagram off my phone again. I think this is number
again.
This is like number 12 for the year.
It'll be back. It'll be back.
It will be. It always is.
I was super late to the Instagram train because I was focused on LinkedIn. I remember thinking LinkedIn was really boring, and then at some point, like it became a big part of my life.
Yeah, man.
But Instagram's a different animal. So I'm trying
definitely
to learn
figured out
now.
the algorithm on LinkedIn. Whatever it is you've been doing, you get so much engagement on there. And I know you've been able to leverage a whole bunch of other things. Like you started your newsletter on there, and I think you said you had 2,000 subscriptions in the first 24 hours once you put the notification on there.
Yeah, I've got about 35,000 subscribers on my newsletter now. And I'm excited. I just hired a team of 3 people to help me manage that. So looking forward to having a more robust newsletter, maybe going to a couple times a week. All the professional marketers say you have to send emails every day.
God, no.
I'm definitely not there. I don't want to be there because even when I get on the newsletters for people that I really like and I enjoy reading their stuff, there's no way I'm going to read it every day.
No, it turns into too much. We get so many emails already as it is. If you're bombarding people with content, I mean, if you're going to put something of value out there, it's going to be between 500 to 1,000 words minimum.
Yep.
And so that's going to take you 5-ish minutes every day to read. And if you're getting some of those every single day from multiple spots, like you're just not getting anything done, and you're getting bombarded with information, which means you're spinning your wheels for not a ton of value. Once, maybe twice a week, I think is tops for newsletter, unless all you're doing is a newsletter. Like I know one guy, he does a daily newsletter, but he compiles a whole bunch of different stuff. He has, daily news articles. He has job postings. It's SOFX, or Special Operations Effects. Yeah. He does a daily one, but it's more of a curated thing. Mm-hmm. And it's a very different market where your business isn't the newsletter. Your business is the executive coaching and the career coaching and the consulting. The newsletter is simply a medium for you to offer value, build credibility, and attract an engaged audience.
Yeah. And if somebody has hours a day to sit around and read my emails, like they're probably not my target market anyway.
Also true.
The more successful you are, the more you think in terms of minutes and not hours and days. And I mean, I find myself thinking in seconds, like I've got 10 seconds to respond to this message before I have to jump on this call. And then I'm going to have like a 2-minute break where I'm going to get 3 things done before my next call. Like you should be maximizing your efficiency and your ability to add value that way, and constantly expanding the limits of your workload and capacity. It's like fitness, right? You go to the gym, you need hypertrophy. You need to push yourself to a point of failure in order to get stronger. And I think you have to do that in your ability to like add value throughout the day in your work too. I'm constantly taking on things that arguably I shouldn't because it's more than I can handle. And sometimes I'm stretched way too thin, but I'm learning how to do more and becoming more efficient because I have to be.
I mean, you're a extremely intense and driven person. Like you can just see through what you did in the military, being a scout sniper in the Marines, super challenging role, going through 9 universities from the worst college in the country to literally the best. And now starting your own business, getting hired by Deloitte when they didn't hire people of quote unquote your pedigree. You take things people to like an impressive level that is honestly, it's very inspiring for a lot of people. I think that's what draws so much attention to your posts and your content, and honestly you as a consultant / coach. But there's also the funny side of it too. Like I know I read the story you put a little while back about your triathlon bike. And yeah, I know I've heard the story, but I want to just share the level of passion and follow through that you have. I mean, you somehow got your bike stolen at an Ironman event, right?
Well, it was after an Ironman event. My bike was damaged in the mail by UPS. And so I was trying to send it back to the manufacturer to get it fixed. While it was in the mail with UPS, it got lost. I'm sure it was stolen. So that's twice UPS screwed me over. I'll never forgive them. And they were no help whatsoever.
If you're looking for consulting work on how to fix your systems, we know a guy.
I'll never work for them. They're beyond hope. Sorry, guys. Lots of hard feelings there. Zero help whatsoever tracking down my bike. You know, they said like your tracking number is invalid. There's nothing we can do for you. So my bike was stolen 2 years ago now. And you think, there's no way I'll ever see it. Like occasionally I check like classified ads and stuff, which is just a complete waste of time. There's no way I'm going to spot this one bike out of millions. But I got a message a year after it was stolen. So April 2023, this guy sent me a message on Instagram and said, "Hey, I found your bike and I just want to buy it from this resale shop. Can you tell me what size it is?" And it still had my Ironman stickers on it because I did the half Ironman in Cartagena. So my race numbers were on there. This guy looked me up in the Ironman system by my race number, found me on Instagram. Like some crazy dude was determined to find out.
There is value in Instagram.
There's value. That was like when I first, got my Instagram account. So
find your stolen shit.
There you go. So I said, "Where are you? My bike was stolen. I'm going to come get it." And he said, "I'm in Panama." So I was
not
like,
Panama
right,
Beach.
Roger that. Negative. Panama, the country. So I bought a plane ticket for later that day and went to Panama. So I went downstairs. I told my wife, I was like, "Hey, this guy found my bike, and it's like a $5,000, like pretty sweet, bike. I could send you a picture of it." But I was like, "This guy found my bike." And she's like, "Oh, where is it? Let's go get it." I was like, "It's in Panama." She's like, "Oh, that's too bad. I guess you'll never see it again, but it's nice to know what happened. I was like, no, I already bought a plane ticket. Like, I'm going there tonight to get my bike. So I hopped on a plane. I ended up dragging her with me. I was like, I'm going to need a getaway driver. So I dragged my wife down there with me too. We took a red-eye flight to Miami. I got stuck in the Miami airport for 18 hours and ended up sharing my displeasure with that delay. And somebody filmed it. So that ended up on social media. That got 100 million views.
If you guys want to find the most entertaining thing, it's Jon Cobb going full drill instructor yelling at American Airlines.
There's a video of this.
This is a full video of him yelling at American Airlines, being like, "You're fucking all of us right now."
So let me explain, okay? Because if you just see the video,
what's even better is someone used this as like an ad thing or like a sales marketing thing. I sent it to you a while back. I'm like, dude, this is you. What is this? Because it was some other company being like how we're feeling about airlines right now, and it's just John going to town on the American Airlines desk.
Yeah, let me explain. Okay, there's a lot of context missing here. So. You didn't know about this, Greg?
No, I didn't. This is awesome.
All right. There's a lot to unpack here. Let me just slow down for a second. I was not yelling at some random poor flight attendant stewardess. I was yelling at a manager who was actively lying to my face. That's what set me over. I was totally chill until I saw the other people on my flight looking helpless and desperate after 18 hours. And it wasn't just that our time was changed once or twice. It was changed like a dozen times throughout the day.
And this is going to Panama, right? Not coming back?
Going to Panama.
Yeah.
Stuck in Miami. So 30 minutes, you're going to leave from gate D5. And then, there's a 20-minute delay. You've got to go over to the E terminal. Go to E4. All day. Like, we couldn't even eat. And then they gave us like a $12 voucher, which was adding insult to injury. And I was like, I had a positive attitude. Like, my wife was frustrated. I was like, it's fine. We're going to get there, And she's like, God is telling us not to go to Panama because we're going to get killed by the jungle cartel that has your bike. If we go down there, like, you need to listen. God's telling us not to. And I was like, or God is testing us and saying we need to adapt and overcome and push through the hardship. And so I was like, I know my bike's there. Like, I had a vision. My bike is there waiting for us. So then this lady was like, my disabled son is going to miss his surgery if our flight doesn't leave soon and all this stuff. And I'm a protector, like 100% protector. I was a lifeguard, a Marine, police officer. We didn't talk about that, but I was a police officer for a while. Bodyguard. Like, I've always been a protector. And so when I saw these other people being taken advantage of by this evil corporation that doesn't care about people, American Airlines, one of the most soulless entities in human history.
I feel like we should create a list right now to go up of like I've got UPS, American Airlines, just like
UPS, Spirit Airlines, American Airlines. There's a few more.
The Jon Cobb hit list.
Oh, that's dangerous. You gotta be careful about those words these days. But anyway, so I ended up yelling at this guy because he was trying to put us back on the plane. We'd already been put on the plane twice and taken off. They were boarding us for a third time when I overheard them say that our pilot was still delayed at a different airport in Tampa. So it was going to be at least 2 hours before we had a pilot. And so that set me off. I did note at the end that I wasn't yelling at him personally. I was upset about the company, and I said, I'm sure you're a good person, but you work for a horrible company, which was true. So
for anybody listening, we'll drop the link to this YouTube video in the chat, because it's, if nothing else, it'll put a smile on your face, because every single person that has ever flown has been in a circumstance where they're just like, I want to unload every emotional response I have right now on this person. Jon Cobb did it for you. And you can just relive it vicariously through YouTube.
Thank you. Yeah, you should go watch it, Greg. I could have chosen my words a little more carefully, but I was heated.
Oh, I love it.
I got to Panama at like 3:30 a.m. So I've been traveling for more than 24 hours now. Get there. We ended up driving like 4 hours to the middle of nowhere to this small town called Chitre in Panama. And end up getting there, looking around this like shady thrift shop. And what happens is these organized crime syndicates like fill shipping containers with stolen goods from the US and they ship them down to Central America to resell for way less. So I end up finding my bike. It's totally jacked up. Like it's probably worth like $50 now, but it's my bike. And so I grab it and I was going to walk out, but they had these bouncer dudes. So they stopped me and I was like, hey, this is my bike. Like I'm just leaving with it. And they're like, what are you talking about? So I had to explain this story, which was totally unbelievable, that I flew, to their country to get my stolen property back based off of an Instagram message. And they end up like not letting me leave. And so I'm like holding on to my bike. Like I was ready to die over this issue. This was a matter of honor.
I will die on it.
Yeah. And so I end up calling the embassy and I'm talking to like the Marines on post 1. I'm like, hey, former active duty Marine, I want to let you know I'm down here in a standoff for stolen property. Long story short, I got my bike back. And so I'm looking forward to someday running my first full Ironman with my bike.
I'm just looking at the cost, going to your Deloitte time, the cost analysis of this bike. It was $5,000. Now with the damage, let's just put it at 500 plus the
travel,
36 hours of travel. So you're not a cheap person.
You can't put a price tag on this, Kevin. You can't put a price tag on this.
Your honor
is business. There's a price tag on everything.
They could have stolen a donut from me. I would have tracked them down to the ends of the earth. I will have what is rightfully mine.
We're going to rename this episode like Jon Cobb, put a line through it and just put Wick.
But that's John the power Wick. Of visualization. Like I knew my bike was there waiting for me.
John Wick 5. He goes after his Ironman bike.
Manifestation.
But yeah, it's having this drive has obviously served you well in life. You're doing incredible. I'm sorry, I'm crying right now from hearing the story again. Like it never gets old. This level of passion goes into why you're doing so well as an entrepreneur, and you have so many things going on. You have your community. You do these in-person executive retreats. You do the one-on-one coaching. You do the consulting. What is the focus of effort now? Like where do you see over the next year or two this growing to?
Yeah, so I'm really focused on retreats now because I get on calls with people for an hour, executive coaching for 30 minutes or an hour, and trying to like change their whole perspective and their mindset and their energy, their stress levels in that time is really hard. And I'm working with one executive who had not taken a vacation for more than 10 years.
Oh,
and, they've done amazing things with the company. But when you are locked into an energy pattern like that, where you're focused on work 24/7, you don't understand what you're ignoring and how unhealthy that is. And so I have to take people from the environment where they are being poisoned in some cases, remove them from that long enough for them to take a deep breath and expand their thought, focus, and talk about where they've been, where they are now, and where they want to go. And so I'm really excited about our next retreat. That's happening September 1st to the 7th in Costa Rica. I've spent a couple months down there, been down there a couple times, and it's one of the most peaceful places I've ever been. And so to be surrounded by, like amazing experiences and nature and get away from the things that are usually distracting people from the big picture, that's powerful. I am pumped about what that is going to do for the people that we're taking down there to help them get clarity on what matters most to them and what they need to do for the next chapter of their life. Because if you don't have that clarity, you're just wandering in the dark, you know?
Mm-hmm. And it's awesome seeing your progress too. Cause I remember sometime last year you were looking at doing 1-day retreats and maybe weekend retreats. So taking it from these, testing it out, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and growing it from a retreat down the road in San Diego, because you're in Temecula, correct?
Yeah.
So, going to San Diego, something close by over a day or a weekend, and figuring out how to fill the content of that duration. Now you've progressed to doing a week in Costa Rica, where you need to now find a location in another country that can house enough people and have enough people to fill these venues and make it worth the while of traveling down there and providing them valuable information and experiences and getting to know what you think would work versus actually what turns out to be the most beneficial thing. Because you might go to and be like, this talk I'm going to give on mindset is going to be the most important aspect. Come to find out, the most important thing for them was just getting away from essentially the triggers, the environment that was causing these things, and just giving them some breathing room. And now you can grow on that. What have been the biggest learning points of hosting these retreats? Because I know they're challenging to put together.
Yeah. So I haven't done one like this. I've done really 1-day events, and I've seen the impact that can have on people. I got to speak at an Aspire event in Atlanta. We had 4,000 or 5,000 people there. I spoke after Kevin Hart and before like Jesse Itzler and Sarah Blakely. And I'm not saying I'm on their level at all, but that was a cool event to see how much people can shift their energy and their mindset. I hate using mindset because it's a cliche term, but like you have to change your perspective. And 1 day can be powerful, but if you remove people for a few days, it can change their whole life. And that is what we're going to do. Nothing is cookie cutter. We're taking a small group. So it's the needs of that group. And if I feel like they need to talk about something that we weren't planning on, we will change and we will focus on what they need to talk about.
So what size group are you taking down there?
Probably 20 to 30 is what it's going to end up being.
Is that one executive that you're working with going? That hasn't
they are not right now. I would love for them to go, because like their whole fear was if I'm gone, everything's going to fall apart without me, right? And I see this with people getting out of the military too. They're like, if I leave my unit in the Army, like they're going to fall apart without me.
I am the linchpin.
There are like 1 million people in the Army, like they're going to replace you in a second. And there might be some breakage. Some things might go wrong when you leave, but they'll figure it out, and that's how people will grow. And so this executive left, and it was the opportunity that all of her direct reports were waiting for to prove what they were capable of and to step up. And so it was very healthy for her and the rest of the company for that to happen. And you have to get away. Like as a leader, you should be replacing yourself all the time. And if you're irreplaceable, then you're kind of doing something wrong. So yeah, hopefully I can talk them into coming too. And you guys.
Yeah. Here we go. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Greg and I have been talking about doing some stuff. We've been chatting with John McCaskill. He's done a couple. There's a significant amount of value. I mean, you talk with your niche market, but across the US and really the world, people are looking for ways to break out of their cycle. My friend calls it a stupid loop. You're doing the same stupid thing over and over and over again because you don't realize what's going on, or you don't have any other recourse to break through that. And so being able to provide people with, as you mentioned, perspective change and other tools to combat these problems it's really desirable these days.
Yeah. My goal is to get away at least once a quarter now for 3 days. That's life-changing. I just went to Kentucky with a couple of buddies. It was random. We went to Lexington, Kentucky, because it was like triangulated in the center for all of us, and had a great time in the middle of nowhere. Just catching up and talking about what we're facing and realizing that we're kind of all going through the same stuff. and even if we aren't overcoming every challenge right away, we're staying in the fight and we're making progress. So it's really healthy to invest in those relationships. And that's another thing that comes out of like this type of retreat, like building new relationships. You should always have new people coming into your life. If you don't have anybody new coming into your life for a couple of years, you are not growing. And it's great to have a few really close friends. You're lucky if you have a couple of very, very close friends, but you need to constantly meet new people in order to grow. And so retreats like this is a great way to do that.
Awesome. Yeah. We're excited to hear more about it.
Look forward to having you there.
We'll we'll definitely drop the link to this stuff in the summary so that people can explore a little bit more about it, and learn about more about you and the services you provide. With this, is there anything else that you want to expand on with your business or with any of the services you're offering?
So one other thing I'll say is I created a course called the Job Search Accelerator. And this is a video course. It takes like 2 hours to go through it to help people looking for new opportunities. I really believe in entrepreneurship, but not everybody is ready to be an entrepreneur, and that's totally okay. And it's not the best fit for everyone. So anybody looking for work opportunities, leaving the military or not, I think this course is really helpful. It's based off of all the work that I've done consulting for HR organizations and being on both sides of the fence, seeing the interview process and why decisions are made on who to hire. And so the course helps people comprehensively with resume, cover letter, with interview prep, with offer negotiation, because everybody should negotiate their offer. Stories to tell about that, but I almost didn't negotiate an offer once and ended up getting significantly more than I asked for after I did ask. So I see a lot of people on LinkedIn who help people with their resumes, and that's great. You want to have a good resume, but you need comprehensive support. You don't want to land the interview and then blow the interview, right? And your whole strategy, like what companies should you go after? How many companies should you apply to? How do you network correctly? So I put this all into a course to help as many people as possible, because I can't do one-on-one coaching with hundreds or thousands of people. I'm selling this course for like $20 now, just so that people don't take it for granted, because if it's free, people take stuff for granted. So if you go to my website, joncobbcoaching.com, no H in John, there's the Job Search Accelerator course. And I know that will help a lot of people, and it has already. So I encourage anybody looking at military transition or looking for new opportunities to check that out.
Awesome.
We'll also plug that in the show notes, so that'll be there, direct link there to check out the course.
Yeah, we'll have to collaborate one of these times, because I'm all for going down to Costa Rica. Chris and I have talked about moving down there, just getting away from the craziness. I love San Diego. It is a phenomenal place, but there's something special about getting off the grid a little bit, getting down to Costa Rica.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. We've got everything planned out. So we're going to be going down one of the longest zip lines in the world down there. We're going to be hopefully on time to see one of the sea turtle arrebatos, where they have 200,000 or 300,000 sea turtles come up on the beach at once to lay eggs, or we'll see the eggs hatch. And, other really incredible experiences down there, world-class surfing. I'm going to be scuba diving a lot. In addition to the intense focused work we're doing on preparing for the next chapter of your life.
What were the dates for that again?
September 1st to the 7th, 2024.
Okay.
And more to come.
Well, thank you, John. Really appreciate you being on the show. We're happy to keep promoting your events. I know people will be able to really walk away from that with profound change and inspiration going on.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, John.
Talk to you soon.